Welcome back to a new episode of Lives on Wheels. Before telling you all about today's protagonist, we invite you to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. For you, it's a small gesture, but for us, it's essential to continue sharing the stories of remarkable individuals who have left their mark on collective memory. Today, we'll tell the story of a pioneer, a visionary entrepreneur who dared to push the boundaries of the possible. Today, we're talking about Ivano Beggio. Under his leadership, Aprilia became one of the brightest stories in Italian motorcycling. An epic adventure that, in an era dominated by Japanese giants, was an act of creative resistance. The work on motorcycles and scooters, complex products requiring immense investments and offering slim margins, was approached with a passion that turned every challenge into a victory. His lesson for entrepreneurs is clear: persevere, dare, innovate. His story, vision and inventions should be studied in schools everywhere. Born in 1944, Ivano Beggio breathed a love for two wheels from an early age in his family's small workshop, where bicycles were crafted under the Aprilia brand. In the 1960s, at the Motorcycle and Bicycle Show, their booth inspired admiration for its ingenuity and creativity. Bicycles were displayed suspended, tied with sturdy ropes to the metal arches of the pavilion, like clusters of fruit ready to be picked. A simple pulley system brought them down to show to customers. His father, Alberto Beggio, chose the name Aprilia as a tribute to the Lancia Aprilia, an innovative car launched in 1937, a symbol of a bold and modern era. It was under this name that a company destined to become a symbol of Italian excellence was born. The family tradition merged with a forward-looking vision. In 1960, Aprilia entered the world of mopeds with the Sport Uomo model. Ivano Beggio, who took the helm of the company in 1968, began producing mopeds with a small team of collaborators. The first models to be released were the Colibri, Daniela and Pacchi. The Colibri, based on a prototype designed by Ivano himself and inspired by the feats of Giacomo Agostini, went into production in 1968 and achieved immediate success. Its sporty design, featuring a bell-mouth carburetor, a needle exhaust and dual front drums, quickly won over enthusiasts. Every detail, meticulously crafted to reduce weight and enhance performance, set a new standard. This success fueled Beggio's ambition, driving him to constantly design new motorcycles driven by passion and ingenuity. In 1971, Ivano ventured into the moped market with the Daniela model. Though his initial failure could have been disheartening, it only strengthened his resolve. It was a lesson that fortified him. From that moment on, he never faltered. He personally financed his first advertisements in Motociclismo magazine, adhering to his father's mandate not to waste money. Among his most successful creations was the Scarabeo. The Scarabeo was born in 1970 as a 50cc off-road and endurance bike, during a time when these disciplines were immensely popular. The name was chosen almost by chance when Ivano's wife, noticing a beetle with iridescent colors, exclaimed, "It's a scarab!" Its aggressive design and its symbolic good luck immediately struck a chord. The first model featured a 50cc Morini engine with a 19mm Del Orto carburetor, delivering about 7 horsepower and adjustable Mazzocchi suspensions. The following year, the 125cc model made its debut, equipped with powerful Morini and Sachs engines. The Scarabeo, a small motocross beast, took the market by storm and, like a bolt of lightning, propelled Aprilia into the motocross arena, where steel met dirt and lungs filled with dust. Ivano Beggio, a man who knew what he was talking about when he said competition is the laboratory, understood that it wasn't just about marketing, but a technical necessity: winning to progress. Racing is an indispensable school. It teaches you to do things well, to respect deadlines, to choose the right materials. A truth as simple as it was profound, and one that became the lifeblood of Aprilia. In 1975, with his indomitable fighting spirit, Beggio assembled a small team of warriors. By 1977, Aprilia claimed its first victories in the Italian Motocross Championship in the 125cc and 250cc categories. This turning point, marked by the triumphs of Alberghetti, who racked up numerous Italian titles and international rankings, and Corrado Maddi, who performed miracles in the 500cc class with a bike incorporating borrowed elements from Yamaha, underscored Aprilia's rise. It was no small feat, yet in Beggio's hands, the small Aprilia brand challenged the giants of motocross. Among Italian brands like Aspes, Fantic, Ancelotti, TGM and Cagiva, and the Japanese heavyweights entering the fray with their formidable machines, Aprilia gritted its teeth and forged ahead. Motocross was not just a training ground for riders, but also a crucible of ideas that shaped the company. The team and factory shared the same tension and risks like soldiers in the trenches. Aprilia had to win every time, confronting chaos and unpredictability with enviable resilience. Beggio understood that racing was where lessons were learned, growth occurred, and innovations were refined before reaching the public in street motorcycles. It was this belief, fueled by his determination, that made Aprilia a brand unafraid of any challenge. In 1980, Beggio launched the mass production of small displacement motorcycles, ranging from 50cc to 125cc. The country was racing toward the future, and the motorcycle industry was moving with extraordinary energy. Beggio, always with a clear vision and sharp instincts, recognized an opportunity in agile motorcycles for a young audience seeking stylish, uncompromising two-wheelers. Motocross bore its first fruits, but by 1982, Beggio was already looking further toward the road. Here is the S125, a concept that combined aesthetics and technology, a visual shock with a large dashboard, and liquid cooling, and a rear monoshock, all drawn from the world of racing. The ST struck a blow to the Cagiva SST, which dominated the 125cc market. But Beggio didn't stop there. With the ST, he also began to look toward the track, racing, the ultimate testing ground, as always for him. When Michele Verini, manager of Loris Reggiani, proposed an ambitious project, a handcrafted 250cc bike with a Rotax engine, Beggio didn't hesitate. The results came quickly. In 1987, Reggiani won at Misano, triumphing in the 250cc World Championship ahead of Cadalora's Yamaha. It was a historic achievement. This was not just a sporting victory, but proof that racing and mass production were inextricably linked. That year, Aprilia made a splash with the AF125, which featured a single-sided monoshock and the Rave exhaust valve system, enabling it to reach nearly 160 km/h. It was the perfect moment to launch the replica, a bike that honored Misano, delivered 30 horsepower, and foreshadowed the future. The series continued to grow like an organism that knows exactly where it wants to go, without hesitation. Ivano Beggio, with his foresight and keen entrepreneurial instincts, invented an alternative path to compete with the Japanese giants, the replica bikes. It was a brilliant insight, like a great coach reading the game while others remained stuck at midfield. Beggio understood ahead of others that racing motorcycles didn't have to be reserved for a select few. They could become a mass dream, accessible to everyone. Replica bikes, inspired by racing with the same graphics and technical details, were sold at affordable prices, with the courage and ambition to bring many young people into the world of racing. In doing so, he not only elevated the Aprilia brand, but also revitalized the entire industry, which would never be the same again. The 1980s were also the years of the Dakar, the African race that ignited a sacred fire for off-road adventures in the hearts of many. Aprilia had to respond to that allure, and thus the Touareg was born. This model translated the desert's adventure into a motorcycle with advanced technology and practicality. Its aesthetics, more subdued compared to the blinding colors of the past, marked a turning point. Gone were the jarring hues, replaced by more refined combinations like red and yellow or blue and light blue. Unsurprisingly, the Touareg found immediate success, carving a niche in the off-road motorcycle market, which was no longer seen as solely for extreme use, but as a means of freedom and accessibility. This shift in philosophy went beyond the technical aspects. It was rooted in a deep understanding of every motorcyclist's dream. Beggio often recalled the choice of the name with pride. Touareg, he said, evoked strength and mystery, the night of the desert. That magic won over everything, transforming the Touareg into the emblem of a philosophy that blended tradition, innovation, and the right commercial instinct. From that foundation came one of the most iconic motorcycles of those years, the Pegaso. Produced from 1989 to 2011, it was one of the pioneering street enduro bikes, capable of adapting to both asphalt and light off-road riding. its evolutions were continuous: aluminum frames, electronic fuel injection, and more powerful engines. Among its most significant models was the Pegaso 125, which carried the legacy of the Touareg Wind, and the Pegaso 650, available in Strada, Trail, and factory variants. This bike skillfully combined the grit of specialty models with the ease of riding necessary for street use. The 600cc and 650cc versions were the flagship of the range, featuring a double-beam aluminum frame and a 5-valve Rotax engine that delivered unparalleled riding pleasure. Beggio fondly remembered the Pegaso, particularly a tour of Corsica with his family and a group of friends. "A memory that will stay with me forever," he said, smiling with the knowledge that some emotions are priceless. The story of Ivano Beggio and his Aprilia is a cornerstone of the Italian motorcycle industry, a testament to how, despite economic challenges and the dominance of Japanese giants, it is possible to overcome obstacles and grow a company with passion and vision. With the Scarabeo, which combined plastic materials and vibrant colors, Beggio created a scooter that revolutionized the sector. And in 1990, when Aprilia entered the scooter market with the Amico, it wasn't just launching a product, it was creating a concept. During a trip to Japan, Beggio noticed the explosion of scooters with tubular frames and plastic bodywork. Compared to a stamped frame like that of the Vespa, this solution allowed for production on a smaller scale, requiring less investment, was lighter and better balanced thanks to the central engine, and enabled quick and inexpensive aesthetic modifications. Upon returning home, he immediately instructed his team to design a vehicle with these specifications. And with its bright, personalized graphics, the success was immediate, supported by the reliable Minerelli engine at the heart of the project, a motor that never failed. The Amico, whose name was no coincidence but a deliberate choice, symbolized accessibility and practicality, as well as the idea that simplicity could be a winning element. Indeed, the catalyzed LK version dominated the market, opening a new segment, while models like the Zip and the Phantom continued to ride the wave of success. In 1992, the sporty SR broke the mold, heralding a new era for scooters, while the 1991 Scarabeo paved the way for the high-wheel segment in Europe, an uncharted territory ripe for exploration. In the years that followed, another chapter of Beggio's motorcycle entrepreneurship was tied to the German giant BMW, in a partnership born almost by chance. The founder of Aprilia, always convinced that excellent chassis design could enhance the performance of top-tier engines, approached the Germans in search of the perfect powertrain for his bikes. Although BMW declined to sell their engines, they were impressed by what they encountered in Noel. This led to a collaboration proposal. Aprilia would produce bikes in its Veneto factories with BMW's endorsement, thanks to the excellence of Aprilia's facilities. The signing of the contract in German marks proved, in hindsight, to be a brilliant move. The German currency appreciated, increasing the value of the exchange. BMW, through the agreement, found a way to explore new segments at reduced costs, while Aprilia gained a masterclass in technical perfectionism and higher quality standards. Beggio was not content to simply reap the rewards of that contract. He continued to invest, building the Reparto Corsa racing department in Noel and the factory in Scorzi, two facilities that then seemed more like visions of the future than immediate realities. Yet these factories became places where talent, ambition, and technical progress fused into a single goal: the rise of a brand destined to dominate. The 1990s marked Aprilia's successes in global competition, but it wasn't speed that brought the first title. It was trial. Tommy Arvala, with his incredible skill, won the World Championship shortly before Alessandro Gramigni claimed the 125cc title. It was a historic year for the Noal brand, which secured not only the Riders' Championship but also the Constructors' Championship. 1992 was the real turning point for Aprilia in track racing. Alessandro Gramigni won the first world title in the 125cc class with 2 victories and 5 podiums. In the 250cc class, Luca Cadalora triumphed with Honda, but Aprilia riders Reggiani and Chili completed the championship podium. That same year, Max Biaggi claimed his first world victory in South Africa, beginning a series of triumphs that would define an era. In 1994, Aprilia achieved a historic double. Kazuto Sakata won the 125cc Riders World Championship, while Biaggi claimed the first of his 3 consecutive 250cc titles, 1994, 1995, 1996. Biaggi's 8 victories and 4 podiums allowed Aprilia to secure its first Constructors' World Championship in 1995, marking a technical dominance that would go down in history. The motorcycles of that era were distinguished by their use of advanced technologies, such as aluminum frames and engines developed with innovative solutions. It was during this time that one of the most iconic replicas of all time was born, the RS 250. Designed without compromise, this bike represented the pinnacle of experience gained on the track. For its engine, Aprilia turned to Suzuki, using the RGV 250 power plant as a base, which was then modified to fit the new chassis. The result was a motorcycle that, while built on Suzuki's technical foundation, bore the Noel brand in every detail. The RS 250 made its mark on international markets, becoming a true testing ground for young talents. Its lightness and agility allowed it to compete with larger displacement motorcycles on certain tracks, cementing Aprilia's reputation as a brand of technical excellence. Among the most significant initiatives of the 1990s stands the Challenge Aprilia, a championship dedicated to the ultra-fast RS 125 and RS 250. This tournament, an expression of Aprilia's sporting DNA, became a springboard for many young talents such as Andrea Dovizioso, Casey Stoner, Jorge Lorenzo, and Cal Crutchlow. In Italy, the championship was managed by Sports, led by Giuseppe Mori and Alberto Fantini, with direct support from Aprilia. More than 800 young riders participated, some of whom would embark on professional careers, including Corsi, Rolfo, and Pirro. The motorcycles were subjected to rigorous technical checks to ensure absolute equality, thanks to meticulous work by individuals like Ettore Baldini and Ramon Salvini. Additionally, Aprilia organized free safe riding courses on the track dedicated to young RS 125 owners, promoting safety and fostering the growth of a new generation of riders. Aprilia, a name that glides like a whisper of wind over the hills, was born under the banner of a grand dream to dominate roads and circuits across the globe, and it does so with a perseverance that has the flavor of an epic. The victories in the World Championships continued, including a stint with a 500cc Grand Prix bike led by Loris Reggiani, though it failed to reach the level of excellence that distinguished the brand in smaller displacements. In 1997, the torch was passed to a young rider who would revolutionize motorcycling in a multifaceted way, Valentino Rossi. With 11 victories in 15 GPs, 2 podiums, and total domination in the 125 class, the partnership between Aprilia and Rossi was a perfect match, bringing the first world title to the talent from Tavullia and another shining chapter for the Noel brand. 1998 was another year to remember. In the 250 class, Loris Capirossi led a historic all-Aprilia podium sweep, securing not only the Riders' title, but also the Constructors' Championship, despite a late-season clash with Harada. Meanwhile, Kazuto Sakata claimed the crown in the 125 class, cementing a period of glory that seemed endless. 1999 ended with another Riders and Constructors double in the 250 class, thanks to Rossi's talent. Aprilia continued to dominate even as the new millennium approached. In 2000, Roberto Locatelli delivered another 125 title for the Veneto-based company, while 2001 in the 250 class, despite the championship slipping away to Honda and its star rider, Daijiro Kato, Aprilia placed 7 riders in the top 10. The revenge came quickly. In 2002, Marco Melandri was crowned world champion in the 250 class, while Arno Vincent triumphed in the 125 class. The winning tradition continued in 2003, with San Marino's Manuel Poggiali claiming the 250 title, giving Aprilia another year as a key player. With 294 Grand Prix victories since 1987, Aprilia became recognized as the most successful European manufacturer in the history of the Motorcycle World Championship. Thanks to Ivano Beggio's vision, Aprilia secured 54 world titles, including 38 in the Motorcycle World Championship, 20 in the 125 class, and 18 in the 250 class. These are complemented by 7 titles in superbike and 9 in off-road disciplines, a trophy cabinet that shines like a constellation in the clear sky. But Aprilia is not only about competition. In 1998, with a bold act of industrial engineering, the company inaugurated its new plant in Scorza, designed by architect Benedini. A monumental structure spanning 38,500 square meters, employing up to 1,250 workers during peak seasons, with 7 scooter assembly lines and 4 dedicated to motorcycles, capable of producing up to 2,500 vehicles per day. Every motorcycle rigorously tested at the end of the line is a masterpiece of engineering. Meanwhile, in Noal, a unique research and development department was established. Equipped with anechoic chambers, automated dynamometric benches, and simulators capable of replicating any road condition, this center became the beating heart of Aprilia's innovation. On rollers and mechanical arms, motorcycles virtually travel hundreds of thousands of kilometers without ever touching asphalt. This obsessive attention to detail allows Aprilia to achieve exceptional standards. Every vehicle must endure 200,000 kilometers without failure. 1998 also saw the birth of the RSV 1000, the motorcycle that marked Aprilia's entry into the large displacement segment. Designed to challenge Japanese giants and the few Italian competitors like Ducati, the RSV 1000 was a revolution. The true essence of Aprilia is revealed in its V60 twin-cylinder engine, an internally designed masterpiece, though manufactured by Rotax. The 60-degree V angle, optimized for the chassis, and the robustness of the design make it a symbol of excellence. A prelude to the V4 of the RSV4, conceived by the brilliant mind of engineer Lombardi, brought to Noal on Pietro Lardi Ferrari's recommendation to lead the brand toward new, ambitious horizons. The 60-degree V-twin engine, aluminum alloy frame and slipper clutch, every detail of the 1000 exudes technology and vision. Used in the World Superbike Championship from 1999 to 2002, this motorcycle left its mark, despite inconsistent results, evolving into special versions like the Haga Replica and the Nera, before making way for the RSV4, a symbol of Aprilia's future ambitions. These years also saw the birth of another icon, the ETV 1000 Capenord. Produced from 2001 to 2017, this adventure touring motorcycle stood out for its aluminum magnesium alloy frame, sophisticated suspension, and 998cc V60 engine developed in collaboration with Rotax. Every aspect of the Capenord, from its meticulously studied aerodynamics to the robustness of its components, reflected the desire to create a motorcycle capable of tackling any road with maximum comfort and reliability. In 2000, Aprilia took a bold step. It acquired Moto Guzzi and Laverde, expanding its empire and consolidating its tradition of sporting and industrial successes. But it was the passion, Ivano Beggio's and that of everyone who contributed to Aprilia's story, that represented the company's true driving force. A passion that continues to burn like the fire that animates every motorcycle leaving the gates of Noal. Ivano Beggio's strategic vision as an enlightened entrepreneur and passionate motorcyclist found fertile ground in its time to sow dreams and reap ambitions that left an indelible mark on the global motorcycling scene. Among his insights, the revival of historic brands represents a particularly fascinating chapter in his industrial saga. Laverde, in particular, emerged as a symbol steeped in allure, a brand that, under Beggio's guidance, was destined to return to its former glory. The spark that fueled the Laverde project was ignited by Beggio's personal memories, recalling his youthful dreams of riding a mythical SF. What made this plan even more special was his collaboration with Carlo Talamo, an iconic figure in Italian motorcycling. Talamo's boundless energy and almost prophetic vision made him the very soul of the bike. It was Talamo who sketched a series of enthusiastic designs envisioning a range of 3-cylinder motorcycles that could have rewritten the history of the Veneto brand. The engine, thanks to Talamo's friendship with the owner of Triumph, was to be the British triple-cylinder, echoing the success of the RS 250, which had also been born from an international collaboration, this time between Aprilia and Suzuki. But fate can be cruel, and Talamo's tragic passing brought a somber conclusion to the story. Laverda, deprived of its three-cylinder engine and Talamo's creative genius, was forced to adopt an alternative plan. Thus, at the Bologna Motor Show, a motorcycle with a twin-cylinder engine was presented. The SFC, elegant and refined, no doubt, but in Beggio's eyes it lacked something essential. For him, Laverda had to have three cylinders, and the inability to realize this vision, combined with the sorrow of Talamo's loss, left the project suspended in a nostalgic limbo. Meanwhile, in Noale, innovation did not stop. The Venetian brand was preparing to launch a model destined to become legendary, the Tuono. Beggio's vision was clear and bold: to enter the naked segment, but with a radically different approach. In a market dominated by refined motorcycles like those from Ducati, Beggio envisioned a naked bike that was essentially a supersport with a high handlebar. The very name Tuono, thunder, evoked power, speed, and explosiveness. Entrusted to the skilled hands of designer Giuseppe Rizzuti, the Tuono did not disappoint expectations. Launched in 2002, it became an instant global success, captivating enthusiasts from every corner of the planet. The range expanded over time, with displacements ranging from 50cc to 125cc, from 660cc to 1000cc. Every version maintained a strong and recognizable identity, making the Tuono one of the most enduring and beloved motorcycles in the motorcycling world. The Tuono 50, for example, offered young motorcyclists the opportunity to enter the naked bike world with a model featuring aggressive styling and category-appropriate performance. With the Tuono, Aprilia created something extraordinary, a new world of hard, naked bikes. It did so with pioneering courage, bringing to market a beast that anticipated by years the trends that others would later follow. For Ivano Beggio, this motorcycle was not just a vehicle. It was his warhorse, the essence of two-wheeled passion, which he shared at gatherings and during weekends with other speed enthusiasts. The Tuono was not just a piece of metal and engine, it was the perfect symbol of his philosophy. A motorcycle designed to make waves, to break the mold, and to rewrite the rules. But for Beggio, there was never a definitive destination. Every new project was an opportunity to challenge routine, to go beyond what already existed. This was how the XV was born, another bold idea destined to leave its mark. In collaboration with Ampelio Macchi, the brilliant engineer who knew no limits, Beggio conceived a motorcycle that rewrote the rules of the motard segment, a category he aimed to shake to its core. Introduced in 450cc and 550cc versions, the SXV was initially developed as a prototype for the World Championship and immediately carved out its place in history, winning the Supermoto title in 2004. The SXV, however, wasn't content with just racing. Its structure was a hymn to modernity, a perimeter steel frame with aluminum supports and a twin-cylinder engine that delivered ferocious thrust in every curve. The VDB replica version, inspired by the official racing bike, was a pure war machine featuring racing components, Brembo brakes, Marzocchi suspension, featherlight wheels and a carbon fuel tank. It wasn't just any bike, but a creation that embodied the essence of motorcycling passion. Unfortunately, just as the SXV was about to take off, Beggio stepped down as president of Aprilia, yet his imprint was indelible. When the SXV won its first Supermoto World Championship, Macchi dedicated the victory to Beggio, a gesture full of gratitude and respect. SX5, RX5, MX5 all embodied the indomitable spirit of those unafraid to take risks, of those who knew that innovation never arises from conformity. Among all the projects of those years, however, one jewel stands out for its audacity: the Blue Marlin. A dream prototype unveiled at the 2001 Milan show, it drove every motorcycle enthusiast wild. With a design that blended modernity and legend, the Blue Marlin embodied the idea of a cafe racer with unprecedented features. Its clean yet bold lines were like poetry in motion. The V60 engine, raw and unembellished, was proudly displayed in all its glory, paired with a frame that seemed sculpted by the wind. The elongated fuel tank, slanted clip-ons and single-seat tailpiece, every element spoke of a motorcycling art form that defied time. Sadly, the Blue Marlin never entered production, too expensive, too far removed from market logic, yet it remains in the hearts of enthusiasts as one of the most iconic prototypes Aprilia ever created. Then there was the Enjoy, an electric bicycle that anticipated the trend of pedal-assisted bikes by decades. In 2000, Beggio launched a vision that would only be fully understood with time, a bicycle that didn't just move but soared thanks to an electric motor. In 2001 at the Motor Show, Aprilia also unveiled a fuel cell prototype powered by hydrogen and oxygen, a vision that looked to the future, to the era of sustainable mobility. Yet this project too remained at the prototype stage but stands today as proof of how far ahead Beggio could see. His legacy goes far beyond, tied to an extraordinary career. Beggio's entrepreneurial prowess was widely recognized, earning him a reputation as one of the greatest innovators in the industry, not only for his insights in production and technology, but also for his strategic vision and commercial acumen. His vision for a brand like Aprilia was pioneering, taking the Venetian motorcycle company to compete at the highest levels in international racing alongside giants like Honda. His talent was also recognized academically and institutionally, as evidenced by 2 honorary degrees he received, one in mechanical engineering from the University of Pisa in 1999, and another in business administration from Ca' Foscari University in Venice in 2002. These honors signified how his influence extended well beyond the entrepreneurial world. Beggio also held numerous prestigious positions, including president of Confindustria Ankma, the association representing motorcycle manufacturers, and member of the board of Confindustria. This was an exceptional achievement for a motorcycle entrepreneur, placing him among the 8 representatives of Italian industry. His name became synonymous with excellence, successful entrepreneurship, and a unique ability to combine a passion for motorcycles with a modern industrial vision. He never stopped at anything, and his visions never settled for the ordinary. Behind this figure, almost carved in stone, however, there was also a man who, like everyone else, had to contend with forces likely greater than himself. The economic crisis that struck Veneto and its flourishing industry in the late 1990s was a heavy blow that left an indelible mark on his life. His decisions, as courageous as they were bold, collided with the reality of a world changing at an astonishing pace. Beggio, who had earned the merit of bringing Aprilia to the pinnacle of motorcycling, found himself facing difficult choices, some of which proved fatal. Veneto, the beating heart of the industry, was tested by the crisis. Small and medium-sized enterprises, like parched plants, began to falter under the weight of the recession. Local politicians sought strong responses, and Beggio did not shy away. With the same determination that had fueled Aprilia's growth, he decided to take on a challenge far beyond anything he had faced before. The rescue of Giomo Cucine, a company slowly sinking. Beggio bet ambitiously on a venture that instead turned into a genuine bloodbath. The attempted recovery bore no fruit. On the contrary, it brought enormous losses, not only for the company but also for Beggio's finances, striking hard at his position as an entrepreneur and a man. Yet the real pain that tore at Ivano Beggio was not so much the failure of the Giomo Cucina rescue, but the bitter awareness that his choices, so daring and risky, like the acquisitions of Guzzi and Laverde, were about to drag Aprilia and its recent achievements toward the abyss. The sale of the motorcycle division, which included legendary names such as Aprilia, Moto Guzzi and Laverde, to the Piaggio Group in 2004 was a decision as necessary as it was devastating. It was not merely an economic act, but a surrender that tore at Beggio's soul. He had seen his company grow like a child, nurturing it with sweat, vision, and an energy that only someone truly in love with their work could understand. It marked the end of an era, the closing chapter of a saga in which Aprilia had defied market laws, overcome obstacles, and revolutionized the world of motorcycling. That sale signified a passing of the torch, but not without the weight of a profound wound. One that not only took away leadership, but also extinguished the passion that had driven every single move, every single dream. For Beggio, Aprilia was the fruit of a visionary dream, a love fused with every gear, every bike, every race. His employees were not just workers, but companions on a journey, sharing every heartbeat, every effort, every achievement. Now with the sale, Beggio felt hollow, like a captain watching his ship sink, leaving him adrift in a sea of memories and regrets. Every motorcycle that factory produced was not merely a mechanical object, but a piece of his heart, A fragment of his soul poured into every single project, and when he spoke of his people, of his dreams, there was a light in his eyes that he couldn't hide. The light of someone who had given everything, now watching his creation fade under the weight of time and inevitable choices. Beggio's later years were no longer marked by the frenetic world of motorcycles, but by the search for inner peace. The illness that struck him and the push towards physical and mental detachment from his world led him to reflect on greater, more distant things. His passion for Eastern religions and the search for deeper spirituality took him far from the spotlight. His figure, synonymous for years with successful entrepreneurship, now sought something else, another type of conquest, that of the self. The rhythm of his growth had been meteoric, almost cyclonic, with annual surges of 50%, and his touch seemed to turn every initiative into pure gold. His choices, in style, names and colors, resonated with youth like a miraculous symphony, while the advertising campaigns masterfully rode the winds of the times. Models that have now entered the history of motorcycling, from the Pegaso to the Tuono, passing through the Scarabeo and Amico, and not forgetting experiments and innovations like the Moto 6.5. Under Beggio's leadership, Aprilia managed to capture 20% of the European two-wheel market. He never stopped at anything, and his visions never settled for the ordinary. Behind this figure, almost carved in stone, however, there was also a man who, like everyone else, had to contend with his own vulnerabilities. The economic crisis that struck Veneto and its flourishing industry in the late 1990s was a heavy blow that left an indelible mark on his life. His decisions, as courageous as they were bold, collided with the reality of a world changing at an astonishing pace. Beggio, who had earned the merit of bringing Aprilia to the pinnacle of motorcycling, found himself facing difficult choices, some of which proved fatal. Veneto, the beating heart of the industry, was tested by the crisis. Small and medium-sized enterprises, like parched plants, began to falter under the weight of the recession. Local politicians sought strong responses, and Beggio did not shy away. With the same determination that had fueled Aprilia's growth, he decided to take on a challenge far beyond anything he had faced before: the rescue of Cucine, a company slowly sinking. Beggio bet ambitiously on a venture that instead turned into a genuine bloodbath. The attempted recovery bore no fruit. On the contrary, it brought enormous losses, not only for the company but also for Beggio's finances, striking hard at his position as an entrepreneur and a man. Aprilia, that vigorous tree with deep roots and branches reaching towards the future, found itself facing an unexpected storm at the dawn of the new millennium. The crisis that shook the company did not arise from a single mistake, but from a chain of factors that intertwined like threads of an inextricable plot, marked by strategic errors, poorly calculated investments, and an adverse economic climate. First, the market itself proved to be an unforeseen trap. Aprilia had planned its growth based on forecasts that predicted a 30% expansion in the European two-wheeled market. But the reality turned out to be very different. That 30% turned out to be a contraction. Such a drastic reduction overwhelmed the entire sector, but it hit Aprilia particularly hard, which had just invested tens of millions of euros in a new engine factory in San Marino. An ambitious project that, with the collapse in demand, turned into a financial boomerang. Compounding the issue was the purchase of Moto Guzzi, an operation that began as an act of strategic daring and ended up becoming an anchor pulling Aprilia towards the bottom. Paid for 60 million euros, of which 20 million were just to cover existing debts, Moto Guzzi required another 50 million to restore the production site and relaunch production. That wasn't enough. In the attempt to establish itself as a world leader in motorcycling, Aprilia faced expensive but ultimately unfruitful technological challenges. The three-cylinder engine developed for the emerging MotoGP, a project undertaken in collaboration with Cosworth, proved to be a failure. Despite being technologically advanced, it failed to be competitive, burning through valuable resources. The return to off-road with a 77-degree V-twin engine also turned out to be a gamble, expensive, complex, and unable to win over the public. Finally, there was an identity and positioning problem. While on one hand the RSV 1000 was a technically excellent bike, on the other, its bulky lines didn't evoke the passion that the more graceful models of the past had inspired. Other attempts, like the RST Futura and the SL Falco, although interesting, failed to make an impact in an increasingly demanding and competitive market. All of this was compounded by growing debt, which surpassed the critical threshold of 200 million euros. The banks, faced with an increasingly evident risk, stopped supporting Ivano Beggio, withdrawing their trust, just as his empire began to wobble. The sale of the company became inevitable, and after a long back and forth in 2004, Aprilia became part of the Piaggio Group. A heavy blow for a company that, while remaining a beacon of technological and sporting innovation, was forced to give up its independence. The sale of the motorcycle division to the Piaggio Group in 2004 was a difficult and inevitable decision for Beggio. The move, though necessary to face the crisis, marked a surrender, a deep wound for its creator, who had seen his company grow like a child. Aprilia was not just a business for him. It was the fruit of a dream, a passion he had nurtured with sweat and intelligence from someone who knew where they wanted to go. His employees, who were not merely workers but companions on the journey, shared that same passion. The emotion he never hid reflected in his eyes when he spoke of those who had accompanied him on that journey. Every motorcycle produced was not just a means of transport, but a piece of his heart, a small fragment of his soul. Now, with the separation, Beggio found himself alone, a man who had lost his creation. Beggio's final years were no longer marked by the frenetic world of motorcycles, but by the search for inner peace. The illness that struck him, the push for physical and mental detachment from his world, led him to reflect on bigger, more distant matters. His passion for Eastern religions and the quest for deeper spirituality took him far from the spotlight. His figure, which had been synonymous for years with a winning business, now sought something else, another type of conquest, that of the self. When at 70, Beggio organized a birthday party, it was almost a way to say goodbye, to bid farewell to those who had been part of his life and success. And in an era that was changing rapidly, he also approached the world of the internet, opening a Facebook page that allowed him to reconnect with many who had never forgotten him. He was no longer the entrepreneur he once was, but a man who, despite being marked by his struggles, continued to inspire those who remembered him. On March 13, 2018, at 73 years old, illness took Ivano Beggio away, leaving a void that no other figure would ever be able to fill. His death marked the end of an era. To this day, many still ask why that ending. Did his ambition, even in out-of-sector operations, push him toward excessively risky ventures? Did the economic crisis play a decisive role in the financial turmoil? Or perhaps were there other pressures that forced some strategic choices that turned out to be disastrous? Questions that are difficult to answer. His epilogue may seem like a discordant note in a symphony that was still extraordinary. A true masterpiece, one that continues to leave its mark and make hearts beat. We stop here, but the road of legends continues and the wheels keep turning. The stories remain. Every person tells a journey and unveils an era. Until the next stage, always on two wheels and with a piece of history to tell.